What is the scariest noise you've ever heard? In my early 20s, I worked at a nuclear power plant in the laundry department, and there was an alarm for a nuclear event while I was on shift. All non-essential personnel had to take shelter in the on-site bunker and wait 4 hours. The speakers blared an alarm and notice inside and out of the complex. The notice was something akin to alert. Nuclear event in progress. Take your stations. Alert. Hours. Did you find out the cause? Was it a drill or false alarm? There are all kinds of different things that can be considered nuclear events, and this was just a minor thing. I wasn't privy to the specifics, but it had something to do with a leaking heavy water pipe that had to be emergency replaced. Us folks in the bunker didn't find out any details until it was all over. The roar of a tornado that was about 1/8 of a mile from me, combined with the sound of the emergency sirens and the fierce winds full of all kinds of debris. I tell you what, that sound is almost calming when you've been inside a tornado and can compare the sounds. I live on the edge of tornado, a lie I've been as close as you're saying, and in my basements. It's horrible and the like, but not nerve-wracking. You expect the howling rain / whine / sirens. You expect the crackle of the Weather Channel coming in and out before silence and dark. Then I was inside an F2. I cannot imagine an F5. There is the expected build-up of the above crackle, dark, crackle, silence, dark. But there comes another set of sounds when the tornado is approaching that was unfamiliar to my 23-year-old self and been through constant drills since childhood. It's that rush you hear when a big rig is coming up on your sedan on a 2-lane highway, but amplified by 1000. And then there is a noise you can only place because of action movies. The sound of metal tearing apart and away from concrete, and then an earth-shattering thud. The rocks, the foundations of the house, urine as in literally fell from the couch thud. And then you know shit is ducked when your dog has decided that she's now going full exorcist and puking up in her crate behind you. But you're worried about your idiot cat that has decided that the house moving thud is the signal to run up the stairs and into the main house. So you run after him to look outside. In dark flash, something is wrong, and you realize the 50-foot tree that was outside that glass door is missing. And all you can say at the top step, look outside, holding on to the fuzzy idiot, is oh my god. And you're not religious at all. That emergency alert sound when it takes over your TV, even though 99% of the time for me, it's just been tests. That sound terrifies me. Woman howling in distress after her very young son had died due to a sudden and unexpected illness. Me and the nurses ran towards thinking someone had been seriously injured. We found her completely broken and took her somewhere for privacy until her brother could arrive. Girl getting her hip popped back into place in the air with no meds after being thrown 100 feet off a motorcycle. I will remember the scream forever. It seriously haunts me. Dislocated joints are one of the better things ERs deal with. They can solve that, and the patient gets better pretty soon afterward. Aortic aneurysms, though, the patients are awake. They're in horrible pain, and half of them don't survive. The sound on its own wasn't actually scary. It was the fact that it came from the middle of my room, in the dark, and it sounded like a person making a popping sound with their lips. I was trying to convince myself that I imagined it. Then I tried to make the same sound to see if I could. I did. And then I heard it again. Like an answer. Yeah. 10-year-old me was scared shitless by that. I still have no idea what that was or where it came from. Edit. My most upvoted comment is about a popping sound in my room. Nice. On second thought, the sound might have sounded like it was created more in the back of the throat. It was a long time ago, and I really don't like to think about it too much. I have concluded that it might have been the floorboards or a hallucination, and that I should watch Hereditary, giving me Hereditary vibes. I stayed up till like 3 AM and just heard a super loud scream outside of my house. It wasn't just one time though. It happened a few times a week. Exclamation mark. Turns out it was a drunk dude. Still scared the shit out of me. Edit. Yeah, Rhino, 3 AM the spooky time. Someone moving downstairs when I knew for a fact no one else should be home. Semicolon. Ultimately more a sad story than a scary story, but when I was a teenager my parents went to visit family out of town and let me do my thing at home for a few days. Unfortunately my mom got a call that grandpa had died, so they returned early and in the middle of the night. But instead of calling ahead or ringing the doorbell and just waking me up, they decided the best course of action would be to just let me have some sleep and then tell me in the morning. Needless to say I was almost scared to death when I got up in the morning and heard someone downstairs and the door opening and closing when I thought I was home alone. One time at 3 AM my big dog let out a full-on wolf howl in a dark room. He was dreaming. I've never heard him howl before or since. It was a full volume. About a foot from my face while I was asleep. I seriously thought I was in mortal danger. I was walking my dog at about 4 AM a couple of years ago. I go to work before the crack of dawn and heard a coyote howl in my neighbor's backyard. Then another one answered it from the other side of the street. My dog literally stopped and shit in the middle of the street, then turned and headed back to the house. I almost shit too. Damn. That blew up. Thanks for the award. Living in an apartment directly abutting a wooded area, I hear them a ton. Especially in winter as they venture closer to scavenge. I was up at 4 AM getting ready to go to work and all of a sudden, what sounds like about 6 feet from my back door, one starts followed by a chorus of around a dozen, with their howls bouncing off the units. I left a few minutes late for work that morning. Side note, I've also heard foxes calling at that time of night and it literally sounds like a woman screaming in pain. That really freaks you the duck out. The National Weather Service announcements on TV/radio. The aggressive beeps followed by the muffled and staticky voice is horrifying. How did anyone expect everyone to remain calm after hearing that? When a fox screams they sound just like a woman being brutally beaten to death. Imagine waking up to that right outside your window at 3 AM. The thunk of a car hitting my sister and the noise she made as she hit the pavement. Truly the most pants-shitting level of terror I've experienced, and that's a deep well to draw from. She survived after resuscitation. Don't drive drunk. The sound of the death rattle when my grandmother was on hospice in her final hours. It's a sound you're never prepared to hear, even when you know death is coming for your loved one. The wet thunking sound of my grandmother's head hitting the pavement when she fell off her walker, followed by low moaning and a pool of blood. She ended up being okay, but at the time, I thought I just watched her die in front of me. My friend was fatally shot in the chest when we were leaving a club together in 2016. We were drunk and didn't really realize what happened, but when the reality of the situation set in, the look of fear in her eyes is an image I'll never be able to forget. She started frantically grabbing at her heart and crying, "I don't want to die," in between gurgled breaths. Moments before she passed, she started convulsing and making these primordial sounding squelching noises that haunt me in my sleep to this day. She was 21. I miss her every day. This alarm that comes on to warn of imminent attacks. It's only been drilled so far, but it's scary as hell. My grandmother had an epileptic seizure, and in the 2 seconds leading up to her collapsing she screamed. It was a scream that sounded like she'd just witnessed the most horrible thing in the world. I've forgotten exactly why she screamed, but a doctor said it was just like an involuntary reaction. Still scary as hell. I occasionally get auditory hallucinations when falling asleep. Falling asleep last night I heard what sounded like someone pounding on my door. Freaked me out, but our dog wasn't barking, which let me know it wasn't real. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.